Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Most Important Conversations Daily Meditation, which we hold from Monday through Friday. Each meditation begins with a short talk with themes that are derived from our program, Whole Life Architecture. The main and overarching theme of each meditation and each talk is liberation. And our Whole Life Architecture program that we derive these themes and topics from is an ontological community that meets every week, where people are actively collaborating and creating their life by design as opposed to tolerating a life by default. What we've been talking about in these meditations around the theme of liberation recently has been suffering, and how we as human beings, being creators, create all of our own suffering. And it might seem odd because we live in a society that has heavily conditioned us to believe that our suffering is the result of things outside of us. And sometimes that happens. But as I said yesterday, it's very much like the Mark Twain quote, who says that my life has been filled with a series of awful events, most of which never occurred. That human beings create our own suffering is a well-known and yet heavily rejected premise, because it would require us to individually take responsibility and step into our power as a creator in our life. It's much easier for us to put the blame on someone else. It's much easier to relegate ourselves to the position of being a victim, because then all we have to do is learn how to tolerate the suffering in our life. And suffering takes many different forms. Suffering could be just living an unaligned life and the monotony and the non-aliveness that creates. There's a certain amount of suffering in that. Or suffering could even be the way that we've lived our life, leading to health issues, leading to stress, anxiety, mental health issues. There's all kinds of ways that suffering manifests, but we as creators create the conditions for that suffering to occur. And so yesterday, what we were talking about is what to do about this suffering. How do we liberate ourselves from the proclivity that we have to create the conditions for it to recursively continue? And we were talking about the power of openness yesterday. We were talking about how when we learn to trust ourselves, we have the ability to be open to the possibilities of life. That trust of self is one of these things at the root of why people get stuck in a strange loop of suffering. We talked about this openness providing us the freedom to be able to respond in the moment, that rather than living in the future or in the past, our work is to stay present in the moment and open to the present moment, so that we can be spontaneous, so that we are no longer trapped in resisting based on what we hoped would happen or thought would happen. We can be with what Buddhism calls the isness of the present moment. And when we connect to that present moment from a place of openness, it frees us up. It liberates us from the conditioning of the past and the future, because there's conditioning in the future as well. There's all the expectations of what we will do, even those expectations that are placed on the future by ourselves. When we get trapped in planning mode, suddenly we're living in the present moment, but living into a future that technically hasn't occurred, but occurs to us as very real, and it can feel like a trap. And so there's no liberation as a way of being when we're dragging our past into our present or our future into our present. Being liberated and being open requires that we have the ability to respond versus react to anything in any given moment. And the reason we're able to do that when we fully liberate ourselves from our conditioning about who we should be and why we should be and what we should be, when we liberate ourselves from that, what it makes possible is that we are free to act in the moment as the moment demands from us. This is sort of that Taoist Wu Wei principle of no forced action. We can genuinely respond in the moment from where we are, not from who we've been in the past or who we hope to be in the future, but who and where we are in that moment, and it can be authentic. We may encounter people in the present moment that want something from us, expect something from us. But when we're truly standing in our power as creator and liberated from our conditioning, that becomes their problem, not ours. We don't have to bend to the world. The world can and will begin to bend to us the more we develop self-trust and stand in our power as creator, confident of who we are, what we are, why we are. And others can ask of us all they want, but if it's not in alignment with us, it is totally acceptable for us to decline their invitation to be other than who we are. We don't have to bend to them. When we talk about liberation, we're talking about being able to be what and who we are, comfortable in our own skin, embracing a posture of openness and possibility to what wants to show up without judgment or preconceived notions of what it should be. We live a life where our self-communication with ourself becomes one that is compassionate. We talked yesterday about what compassion is. Compassion is not the way we typically relate to it as an emotional state where we almost feel compassion for others emotionally, almost like sympathy or empathy. That is not compassion in the way that we're talking about it. Compassion is owning yourself wholly and completely, loving yourself and giving yourself the grace to be who you need to be according to you in the present moment. The world will move on around us. Situations will develop. We don't need to fit ourselves into any special places or become a certain role or conform to a certain environment. We don't need to limit ourselves or trap ourselves into these very narrowly defined conditions and circumstances that others still find themselves trapped in. In fact, the more we can compassionately accept ourselves as whole and complete in this moment, also recognizing that we are creating always a future of who we will be in the next moment, the more we do that, the more others will heed the invitation to do the same. They'll start to get curious about why we are unaffected. This is what we mean in whole life architecture when we talk about being in the world and not of it. That we are in the world in this moment, not yesterday and not tomorrow, and we are able to respond from a place of total self-trust, total self-approval, total self-love. We've talked in previous meditation talks about the importance of embracing a selfish disposition, which seems strange in our world because we typically think of selfishness as a bad thing, as though we are almost egocentric, putting ourselves above all others. That is not what we mean by selfishness. Here, we're talking about it through the lens of self-care and self-honoring of what is true for you, of what you require to maintain a state of alignment with yourself so that you can be of service to those around you because you are not coming from a deficit. You are whole and complete in this moment and can therefore be free to respond to what is required of the moment without dragging the past or the future into it. So situations will occur. People will do things. People will say things. And we don't need to fit ourselves into their expectations. We don't need to limit ourselves. By embracing the path of compassion with ourselves, knowing and trusting we are whole and complete, we have an expansive worldview. We are able to see and feel things that others can't because they're too trapped in their conditioning. They are not liberated. And they've spent their whole life trying to become more liked, more loved, more efficient, more effective, more precise to fit in, and all the while becoming less and less efficient and precise and effective in terms of creating a life that aligns with them, a life by design. When we talk about being open, when we talk about being liberated, we're talking about being able to work from a pure state with what is in the moment, giving up this fear that something that we try or something that we take on won't quote unquote work, whatever work means. Work has a subtle definition under it in each context because usually what we define as something working is not our definition, it's the society's definition, it's the definition of our conditioning. Many people who are trapped in the conditioned world will look at a liberated person and say they have an unworkable life. What they mean by that is their life does not conform to the conditioning, and I can't figure out for the life of me how they could possibly be happy. All the while, that same person, if they were really honest with themselves, would have to admit that there's very little happiness they're truly experiencing in their life because they're trapped in a state of conditioning and fulfilling the expectations of others. They don't even know themselves. So liberation requires this openness, this yes to possibility. It requires dropping fear that your life choices will not work, whatever work means. You are invited to drop the paranoia of not fitting in, of being rejected, because you no longer require the approval of those around you for your life choices. You're able to deal with your life and what makes you come alive in the present moment and simply respond to that. You are dispassionate, which can also sound weird because we've been taught that to live a passion-filled life is important. But the problem with being driven by our passions is we will quickly find ourselves bending to the world to be liked, to be approved, to be validated. You simply move gracefully, and you can still be excited by life. In fact, you'll feel more aliveness than you've ever experienced in your life when you learn to take out all of this extra energy, this passion energy about fitting in and looking good and wanting to conform to the conditions of your life. You suddenly experience the pace of life slowing down. There's no longer a rush to achieve because you're not trying to conform and force something simply to fit into what the society and your conditioning expects of you. You can actually relax. when you are liberated and when you open yourself up to possibility of the present moment. You can relax and you start to learn to enjoy keeping company with yourself. You start to really like your company and don't require the company of others. And again, this doesn't mean that you become a loner. We're talking about, where does the locus of power exist? Does the power exist in other people and you are constantly contorting yourself to get access to it? Or does your power exist within you, traveling wherever you go? You're never feeling depleted. You can rest, you can relax, you can enjoy your company. And the more you can do that, the more others will be attracted to you. But that's not why you do it. People are attracted to power and confidence. Power and confidence is based in self-trust and self-approval and self-care. And suddenly you become a clearing for others in your life. You show them what's possible. You invite them just by your being into a new relationship with themselves. And that experience they have in that moment when they are with you and they don't feel like they need to be anyone other than what they are or who they are, when you demonstrate to them what liberation looks like as a way of being in the present moment, being totally at peace, having total self-trust as the creator of your own life, you become a clearing for them to do the same, just in your being. And we need more people in the world going within and becoming the powerful creator of their own life, because it signals to others that there is a way out of the trap that so many people, that most people are stuck in. Egoically fighting, fearing, tolerating the monotony of a life they feel they are a victim of. All the while deluding themselves and others they are not a victim, that they are somehow powerful, and they show that through their aggression. They show that through asserting themselves and forcing themselves. But they know deep down there's no power there. There's no happiness. There's no joy. It's the world's worst and most ineffective maintenance program. And you can see the ramifications of it. All of the stress, the anxiety, the mental health problems, the drug addiction, the escaping from reality. If people really loved themselves and loved the life that they created, although they don't realize they're the creator of it, we would not see all of the societal breakdowns we are seeing. We would not see all of the health breakdowns we are witnessing. In the Christian Bible, there's a teaching that Jesus gave where he says, "You know a tree by its fruit." And we see the fruit of a heavily conditioned, fear-based, consumer-based society where we look outside of ourselves. We consume energy, time, information, space, things, versus generating it from within. We get our power from outside of us. We consume it from those around us until we walk the path of liberation. So as we move into our Watcher Observer meditation today, the invitation is to give consideration to those parts of your life where you are still not standing in your liberated power as creator, where you are still consuming the conditioning from outside yourself, where you're still looking outside yourself for the answers of who, what, and how you should be, and why you should be it. And you might find a couple areas that pop up in your meditation. Just choose one and start to observe it and become aware of it. And get curious about who you might be in that one area if you were creating it by design from within. What would you choose to do in that area of your life? Why would you choose to do it? And what is preventing you? What is the thing that trips you up? Many will say, well, it's because it costs money, or I don't know the right people, or I don't have the time. And these are all excuses that, while true, underneath it is the avoidance of effort and the avoidance of discomfort that you are trapped in. Yes, changing your life or changing parts of your life where you are trapped in conditioning will require effort from you. It will likely create a situation for a time, at least, of discomfort. But on the other side of that is the possibility and opportunity of creating something that fully makes you come alive. So you might experience discomfort and have to put effort into something for a few weeks or a few months, or maybe even a year. But even in the space of 1 year, isn't it better to spend a year transforming yourself than to spend the next 10, 15, or 20 years trapped in a conditioned life that has you feeling dead every day? It's worth it to stand in your power and learn how to be the creator of your life. For those of you interested, I would invite you to check out Whole Life Architecture at TMIC Global, as that's the work we are doing. And for the meditation this morning, just observe. You are not your thoughts, you are not your emotions. You are the watcher of them in this meditation. Be seated in a comfortable position, taking a few deep cleansing breaths and allowing all the stuff of the world to just fall away. You are simply the observer, the watcher. Your emotions will rise and fall over this period of time during the meditation. Your thoughts will come in and out of view like clouds drifting in the sky. You might even find yourself planning. As best as possible, try and stay as the watcher observer only, letting those thoughts drift in and out of your awareness, letting your emotions surround your thoughts rise and fall, not chasing any of them, not ruminating on them. If you find yourself stuck in planning, acknowledge it and just pull yourself back into the state of awareness, back into the state of the watcher observer. And see what your higher self would speak to you about where in your life, perhaps an area you don't even want to acknowledge because it's too painful, but where in your life you are choosing to stay trapped in your conditioning, choosing to engage in activities or engage with people who are out of alignment with you, but you do it anyway because it's what you've always done. It's the devil, you know. and consider the possibility of creating something new in that area of your life. So for the next few minutes, just be the watcher observer without judgment and let your higher self speak to you. And I'll see you on the other side. And welcome back, everybody. Reconnecting to the world without from the world within. And hopefully you got some insights that popped up for you in your watcher observer meditation about those areas in your life, or even just an area where you're still doing this dance with conditioning, knowing deep down that you want to create a new path for yourself in this area, and yet still finding yourself in the trap of your conditioning, unwilling to let go, in resistance to creating a new path, resistance to the discomfort and the effort it would take to do so. But the good news is you don't have to do it alone. And that's partly why we've created the Whole Life Architecture program, is to invite those who are ready to create something new in their life, to do it in a community of others doing it as well, so that we can support one another, hold space for one another, and create the context of a community that is dedicated and committed to liberation and becoming powerful creators of a life by design. So you no longer have to merely tolerate your life by default. Give some thought to that as you go about your day. Give some thought to that area of your life that you want to transform, and know that you have the power, the creative power, to change it, to transform it, and to bring it into alignment with what really makes your heart sing and makes you come alive. Wishing you all a wonderful day, and we will continue our meditations and our talk tomorrow.